What in the world is Global Disclosure Day? Well, Karl Nell said a lot of stuff. I think Karl Nell needs to be in this hearing, especially with all the stuff that he's saying. Who doesn't want to hear what this guy's going to say? So we're going to dive deep into that. The Soul Foundation video, the Global Disclosure video that Karl Nell talked about, what he said is a thing. It will blow your mind, especially if all this stuff turns out to, A, be true, B, talked about at the hearing in November. Another thing that's going to add to that, I believe, is JamesFox's documentary. And we've been discussing that, and everybody is kind of hyped about that because it kind of dives into the overall what's been going on in Congress and not just about one particular event, which he's done in the past. And the goal is to try to reach a wider audience. Well, he's out in Los Angeles trying to sell it to whether it's Netflix, Amazon, whoever it might be. And Michael Schellenberger is kind of leading the charge to help him get that picked up. So what's the implications? What does it mean if it does get picked up? We'll talk about that and so much more on the show today. It's myself, it's Attack Peter, it's Down to Earth, UAP Tuesday, baby. Let's do it. All right, we are back. It is UAP Tuesday, fresh off of his New York trip to New York Comic-Con. Attack Peter, what's up, buddy?
Oh, man, that is a wild city, New York. I live in a Miami suburb, and I love New York City, but I always forget until I'm there how intense, like, the hustle and bustle is. But
oh, man.
Great food, great people. I'm happy to be back.
I'm going in there today. I'm going to see Venom. I'm going to see Venom.
There's Venom stuff everywhere in the city.
I'm sure it was, especially for around Comic-Con. So I'm going to see that. So that was something I wanted to see. It was funny because I talked to you before we started shooting, and I said, I guess a few people from UAP Tuesday audience came up to you and approached you, huh?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Quite a few people who only knew me from there, funny
That's
enough.
Great.
And then they put two and two together at the con. So that was really, really cool. I saw like 3 or 4 people came up to me and said, "Hey, UAP Tuesday." That was really cool.
That's amazing. So that's good. Yeah.
You're going to have to do a UAP panel at one of these things one
eventually. So speaking of panel, speaking of people speaking, the Soul Foundation thing, man, it was, it was one of those things. It's funny how they pop up. It's like just, oh yeah, by the way, we're doing something on Tuesday, whatever it was. And it's like, and the stuff that was said, I'm going to play this clip by Karl Nell, which should blow people's minds, especially the fact that he's saying it. But let's play the clip and then we'll talk about it afterwards.
Non-human intelligence exists. Non-human intelligence has been interacting with humanity on this planet. This interaction is ongoing and it's not new. And there is zero doubt. But you already knew that. So how do we go about convincing other people that this is the case? Particularly people that aren't necessarily privy to all the information that some of us may otherwise be. And so there's 3 principal lines of effort, 3 principal sources of data. There's essentially the first principles argument, which basically says, counter to common belief, that life is common in the universe. How do we know life should be common in the universe? There's 20 billion sun-like stars in the universe. The sun is a population 1 star. There are planets like this, there's stars like the sun that are 5 billion years older than the sun. That's plenty of time for other civilizations to evolve on these other planets. There's recent scholarship that says that life evolved on Earth in the Hadean era. The Hadean era was before the crust even cooled. There's recent scholarship that says that microbes have been found in terrestrial rock that have dated to 2 billion years ago, essentially in stasis. So life evolved here very quickly. There are many, many planets like the sun, and there are many, many planets that are much older than the sun. People that would argue that life is uncommon have to justify that proposition more than anyone would have to justify the fact that life evolves very quickly. The second point is faster than light travel. Everybody says faster than light travel is not possible. This is false. Miguel Alcubierre, a postgraduate student at the University of Mexico in 1994, solved Einstein's equations for an effective faster than light mechanism. NASA has investigated this. Everyone accepts his solution as valid. His solution requires negative energy. In 1960, quantum physics demonstrated or predicted the reality of negative energy. In the 90s, the Casimir effect was demonstrated in the laboratory. The Casimir effect demonstrates negative energy. The expansion of the universe, which is caused by dark energy, is negative energy. So we have a solution to Einstein's equations that allow effective, faster than light travel. We've got the existence of negative energy proven. This isn't an engineering solution. This isn't a means where we can go and do this, but theoretically it's possible. And this is not argued by modern scholarship. So from a first principles, life is more than likely common, and we know that Einstein's equations support effective, faster than light travel. That's the first principles argument. The second is the testimonial. Perhaps there are people out there that may know more than some of us might know, including people that have been in the intelligence community, such as myself. So we can look at several presidents, Barack Obama, President Trump. They both said UAP are real. We can look at, as was mentioned earlier, Chris Mellon, Dave Grush, Lou Elizondo have said non-human intelligence is real. We can look at Lord of the Fleet, Lord Hill Norton, a chief of the defense staff in the United Kingdom in past years, have said UFOs are real. We can look at the first Earl Mountbatten of Burma in the United Kingdom again, that have said UFOs are real. We can look at the chief of the Canadian Defense Ministry, Paul Hellyer, who have said non-human intelligence is real. We can look at Haim Eshed, who is the Israelis' father of their space program, who has said non-human intelligence is real. All these people and more would be in a position to know. Then we can look at the evidence, the data. You've seen the videos, the floor video, the gimbal, the go fast. A lot of people probably don't know Gordon Cooper, one of America's 7 Mercury astronauts, chased UFOs over West Germany in 1951. He testified to that fact before the United Nations in 1978, analogous to the David Fravor Tic Tac incident. We can look at the UFO incursions over the Northern Tier ballistic missile early warning sites in the 70s and the document supported and testimony supported readiness status change of our ICBMs in the 60s at Malmstrom Air Force Base, where many missiles were taken offline by a UFO. The analogous thing happened in the Soviet Union contemporaneously. In their case, the missiles were brought online. There's an agreement between the United States and, at the time, the Soviet Union, intending to reduce the threat of nuclear war, that talks about each party notifying the other if UFOs are impinging on their warfighting systems, because this was recognized as a fact. There's documentary evidence, the Twining memo from 1947. General Nathan Twining, future Chief of Staff of the U.S. Air Force, wrote a memorandum that said the UFOs are most likely extraterrestrial. There's official Australian documents declassified on the National Archives of Australia from 1971 from their defense attaché that made a formal assessment of the United States' interest in UFOs, the reality of that, and the fact that the US was investigating anti-gravity programs in concert with looking into UFOs, a conclusion that would make no sense unless the reality of this topic was demonstrated. So some people say, well, if this is real, why don't they fly over the White House or something? Well, in 1952, UFOs flew over Washington, D.C. over 2 weekends. There were radar visual sightings, there were air-to-air intercepts, and it created the largest press conference since World War II up to that time. People say, well, why don't they just land during the middle of the day? Well, that happened in 1994 at the Ariel School in Rura, Zimbabwe, where UFOs presented themselves with beings and occupants on the ground, witnessed by numerous children. The exact same incident happened in 1966 in West Hall, Australia. The people that witnessed those events are still alive, and they continue to state the assertion of that being a factual occurrence. So these things taken together, along with much other evidence, suggest that this is absolutely true. And I'm speaking to you today to tell you that there is zero doubt this is absolutely true. I know this personally. So the way to solve this problem is to motivate the grassroots. Political activism is the solution to restoring proper oversight, developing a process for responsible disclosure, and advancing society through the efforts of that process. So I salute you for your participation in this event. Again, I thank New Paradigm Institute. I'm humbled to be able to address you and participate with you in this historic occasion, and I wish you the best. God bless.
All right, so this guy needs to testify, right? I mean, he needs to.
I mean, the tone in his voice on this one, I mean, even the first time he spoke and it got traction, I don't know the guy. I haven't heard him talk outside of the topic, but it sounds like there's a little bit of like he's just over the BS on it in his voice. And this time more so even than that. And I feel like if he, I mean, I feel like he's telling the truth, and the amount of information and the way he broke it down and the way he specified things is so like
matter of fact.
It's so matter of fact, so thorough, you know, and between this and some of the other clips I saw posted this weekend from other people speaking, it seems like people are at a point where like, screw it, we're just going to talk.
I mean,
hence you got that feeling,
but hence the name of what it is, like that disclosure in general. And I think that it's just so. I don't know if it's telling. Maybe it isn't telling, but I feel like it should be telling that if you're having this type of conversation less than a month from the hearing, right? And we'll get into the whole JamesFox thing in just a moment also, but right as that's going down and all these other things, the lead up from Lou, the Michael Schellenberger article, all that leading to this. And then what were some of the things that stood out? I mean, Karl Nell to me was the one that really stood out, and that clip that we just played I think was the most telling out of all of it. Well, what was some of the things? I know that you mentioned that the tone of the way that everybody who was speaking was saying, but what was the stuff that really stood out to you from those videos?
I mean, if you're speaking specifically about Karl Nell, it's just that this is exactly what you want. If you're someone who feels like they're up to date on the topic and you're hoping that the general public starts to key in, these are the type of people talking that you want. Military officials with proven track records, speaking very bluntly, very matter-of-factly. And there does seem to be a sense of urgency to his voice too.
Right.
Maybe a little bit more than the first time I heard him speak. You know, I'm just taking it in context with the Danny Sheehan stuff that came out over the weekend,
where he's pretty much saying like the stuff that was supposed to they're supposed to happen isn't going to happen. That stuff. There's
a clip that was posted that's him talking at a school, an Ivy League school, I think. I forget which one. The guy's going into like the specific alien races, how they work together, and it's wild because he's very matter of fact, very blunt, very thorough.
This is Danny Sheehan you're talking about.
Danny Sheehan. Yeah. So what I'm saying is like, I'm looking at this Karl Nell video in the context of that. I mean, Jeremy Corbell posted this tweet that's basically like, buckle up, November 13th is it type of thing. And these guys all have a lot of urgency, and Jeremy's tweet is very confident. And I feel like the upside of that is small. The downside is big. You know, like if
it doesn't deliver.
Yeah. Like the upside of being very confident right now ahead of a hearing is small. Like, so, because like if you're proven right, we already knew you were in on it, you know, on board, right? But if someone sets you up to look foolish by either like blocking a witness or not asking the questions you want to hear, yada yada,
or if it's just a wet fart of a thing in the same thing,
which is what we thought we were getting, a wet fart of a hearing.
We thought that. Right? Well, no, we thought that there's supposed to be two. There's supposed to be one in October. I don't even know if they're going through with it anymore. And that was supposed to be
the one with
Gillibrand. Yeah, Gillibrand, and then bringing in the Arrow stuff, and which is pretty much just like, oh hey, and then maybe they realize now that, oh well, this one in November is really kind of preceding this. So, I think that you're right, and everybody's been saying this, and look, they've been saying it. You can't run this one and say, well, we can't tell you this, but this is this, and we can prove kind of somewhere else. You can't do that. This has to be one of those. It's got to be the what? Did you see? Like, it can't convince us. It's got to convince people who laugh at us when we talk about this stuff. It's got to convince your wife, right? It's got to convince my wife. It's got to convince people to say like, hey, you know that stuff I talk about all the time? Or rather, they say to us, hey, I saw this on the news yesterday that they said that there's other there's actual alien races. There's actual. They admitted this program. They had actually admitted that they had the ships. They showed pictures. What's going on?
You know what this reads like? This reads like all these guys were trying to play ball.
Yeah.
They knew there was a plan to do some kind of controlled, the hearings, right? The hearings were going to come. We're going to have, better choice of witnesses, not better, but like more witnesses that read better, more thorough conversations. And then something happened behind the scenes that everyone's like, oh, they killed the bill. They kill, they might not be having the hearing after all, and then everybody's like, well, screw it. We're going to like the meme that's going around. We could have controlled disclosure or chaotic disclosure. And I feel like this is them playing chicken with the government is what it feels like. Honestly, like this is what we can say. This is what we're saying now. So let me know if you guys are not going to play ball with us, so we can just keep this going, and then you see where you want to put a cap on it.
So we know from this side of things, it looks like the Karl Nells, the Jeremy Corbells, everyone that you just mentioned, we kind of have an idea that they're gearing up to try to really make this thing happen, right?
Feels like it.
What's the other side doing? Like that's a question. Is like, what is the other side doing at this point? Are they just kind of waving it off, going, now we're going to have people, they're going to be in a broom closet. Nobody's really going to pay attention to this thing. They'll be talking to the same echo chamber that they've been talking to. Nobody's going to pay attention to it. It's fine. Or are they actually kind of saying this might be the last stand?
Well, if we're to believe everything we've heard, it's a struggle in the government, right? It's not a monolith. Mm-hmm. Like there's two factions warring for what should be coming out.
Right.
And if that's the case, I imagine one side is pushing to have the hearings like the way we want to hear them, and the other side is going with. If I was trying to suppress this, the energy that I would employ would be, don't give it any don't address it, don't respond to it. And then right before whatever it is supposed to happen, you pull the rug under it. Like whether it's, which is what they did with the disclosure bills, they remove it, they quietly kill it at the last second. It's non-eventful, and you put out a few things that are like you said, like a web fart, and then you can just say, well, we did it. We heard the hearing and there was really nothing there. So that's the way you shut this down. It's not a McCarthy type hearing.
Yeah, it's got to be a hearing that does nothing, because they're like, you can do this again. You did it the first time. You got people talking, great, and then Arrow came out right afterwards and said we didn't hear anything, and then you still kind of kept pushing. Got another hearing.
I also am always skeptical that one of the people being vocal about this, and I'm not saying someone in particular, but any one of them is a straw man. In other words, like, they will be on the side of disclosure. They'll be releasing a lot of information, and then someone's going to find something on their laptop. You know what I mean? Like I'm always hesitant and paranoid that we're going to get something like that.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that? You mean like controversy type stuff, or?
Yeah. Like I'm always
wait. So let me correct me. I think what you're saying is, so let's say there's Senator A, and Senator A has been saying go, and then Senator A has a picture with dogs and doing some weird stuff, and they're like, oh, look at it, you can't trust that guy,
right? Or suddenly they're working for a foreign government to stir dissent in the people. I'm just saying, like, my antennas are always up. The closer we get to the disclosure we're looking for, is also the closure a side of the government gets to not having their way.
Right.
And I would imagine.
Because like George Knapp says, and we say it all the time, they're better at their job. But, it does, as I said, and I posed that question to you after we watched that video, is Karl Nell has been, every time he speaks, we cover it on the show and go, whoa, look at what he's saying now. Look at this. I mean, from what we believe, he was David Grush's boss, right?
Yep.
So every time, how do you not have this guy? They haven't announced anybody as a witness, and nor should they. But how do you not have him as a witness?
How do you not have him, and why do you pick the witnesses you pick? That's something I would love to know, because of course you're going to block whoever you don't want to be talking about this, right? But why would you let on the other ones, right? So that's another thing, and I'm always trying to play devil's advocate with myself, because I really like Lou Elizondo. Like, he reads well to me. I really like David Grush. He reads well to me.
Sure.
But I also, like, sometimes I get in that Y Files headset space.
Like
which
government
is
plant type stuff?
Yeah, because why wouldn't it be? Like, why wouldn't it be? And that's basically whether this is whether you believe that disclosure is going to be a real thing or not, whether you believe it's all fake or it's all real. Why wouldn't you have a plan to control the narrative to some degree?
Sure. Well, Rogan pretty much said the same thing, and he didn't say Lou Elizondo's name, but it sure seemed like he was hinting at it when he was talking to Schellenberger. And then Schellenberger asked him, he goes, well, why would they do that? And his answer was kind of similar to what you said, and that was, oh yeah, they're going to release it, but they're going to do it their way in a certain aspect. But it's like, what are they going to release? He was more so, Rogan was more so saying that they'll release some kind. He thinks that there's some stuff that's out there. He thinks that there's some out of this world. There's some stuff that's more so just other governments. There's other. I just don't buy the other governments thing anymore at all.
No, I don't buy the other governments thing.
The Langley stuff, dude. The Langley stuff. How does something fly over the bases for 17 days and not get shot down if it's other governments?
You know me, and you know where I stand on this. I'm all in. I think this is legit. I actually, like, when I heard Danny Sheehan talking, I'm like, I don't think he thinks he's lying, or I don't think he's lying in the sense. I think he's saying what he's been told, right?
Sure.
So I'm not so far off from believing everything Danny Sheehan said in that talk.
Okay.
I'm more like thinking, like, if it's all real, this is a major thing you can use to your own advantage if you play your cards right. And if we're at a point now where, like, society is turning anti-war overall, where we're not stoked about any of these global wars that are happening for either side, eventually, like Reagan said one time, you need to have an outside force to unite the people.
Right.
And unite the people in support of whatever our, the agendas are going to be. So whether it's like, not NHI or this neutral force that's just observing us like we observe wildlife, or NHI is a benevolent force that is hoping to usher us into a intergalactic society, or NHI is a malevolent force that's really just harvesting us for some reason. Whatever it is, if you're in power here, and you are able to, why wouldn't you try to steer that for your own gain? That's why I always wonder. Like,
sure, you always have to be skeptical on this stuff, or at least cautious.
Skeptical about the disclosure process.
Right, and which I think is more than fair, especially when it's because, look, we've been through a roller coaster in general about how this stuff was. There was the 2024 stuff in the January that was supposed to happen, and then Lou's book was supposed to come out earlier in the year, and then that was pushed. The plans have kind of move forward. The thing that gets me is that I shake my head on it. Like, it just, I guess maybe because we cover it all the time, that we're thinking about it all the time. But like some of this hearing, let's say that this hearing turns out to be the hearing, the one that changes the world. Let's say,
would it need to be the one?
Right, but let's say it is.
Okay.
There are senators and congresspeople out there that when Matt Laszlo asked them about the hearing, oh, there's a new hearing? How do you not know that? How do we know that before they do?
I don't believe they don't know it if they're even peripherally associated with it.
I don't know, man. There's some of these, I don't think they're good enough actors in the way that some of the reactions, like, oh, yeah, no. And it's almost like, oh, yeah, I knew about that. No, you didn't know about it. And it's like, and it's weird that you didn't know about it. And I think there are some people that are in the circle, and there's other people that are just so consumed about getting their person into the big chair, Game of Thrones style, that's what becomes more important to them. And it's like, and then there's also some of the people that didn't know, don't believe in any of this stuff. Really, they're just kind of chasing the numbers, if you will.
Well, then it truly is a representative, body, right? Like, because you just described, society here in this country and probably globally.
Right.
That there are some people that have no idea what's going on, some people that pretend to know what's going on, some people that are dismissive of it, some people that should be paying attention that aren't, right? So, like, it's representative of that. And I imagine there's no job quite like being in those, committees where you have, like, serious stuff right in front of your face. Like, that's immediate, right? That's immediate for intangible. So they can't prioritize everything. I could see that.
Yeah, it's the question is, like, I think what we just broken record. It's that it has to have an impact.
has to have an impact. It has to be disputable, like even video evidence.
Yes,
is gonna be
pictures and things. Some of these things that have been rumored forever, locations, other like those types of things that need to happen, because you just can't say, and even somebody saying, "Yep, we have a reverse engineering program." That's it, and we probably will get that. I think that's going to be. I don't think it's a coincidence that the Schellenberger whistleblower comes forward right beforehand, in the same way that David Grush came to, Ross Coldhart right before August hearing last year. I think it's in sync. There's a reason why we haven't gotten that person's name. I think there's a reason why they're protecting that person and saying there's no world where you're going to get that name until it's time. Sneak them in like they did the Hardy Boys at WrestleMania. I
actually really like what you just said. Like, I really think that's a legit possibility. That, like, if you look at, it's like sometimes I take a seat back and say, hey, we probably are in that soul timeline. You know what I mean? Like, we probably are in it. And it's not like anyone's going to, it's not like anybody even from within that conference is going to come out and say, good news, folks. We kicked it off. We made a deal. We're going to do that timeline that leaked out. That's not going to happen. So if we're in that timeline, this is what you would do. You would seed the information little by little, and then you would have a big campaign release. Again, we always compare this to pop culture and the way movies are handled and things like that. So it's the same way. You start teasing something, then you announce something, then you have the big, reveal party or the red carpet or whatever it is. Then it's disseminated worldwide to the public.
Well, but you also look, and we always bring up that example of Tim Burchett when he was approached by News Nation at one interview, and they were asking about potential hearings. This was like 7 months ago, or whatever. And they asked him about names. Well, I'm not giving you names, because the last time I gave names, NASA told them not to show up. So they're really being protective of the names in general. Hence why we haven't gotten anybody. Why there's speculation. Gallaudet's probably going to. This seems pretty much like that's.
I think he's awesome. I hope so.
I think that's kind of a given. I think that will happen, and I don't think he gives two Fs if anybody tells him not to do it. I think he's going to do it anyway. I'm telling you, when I spoke to him on the show, I've never seen anybody so fast. I was like, would you testify? Yes.
He's badass.
Within a second.
Again, badass energy. Those are the people that people are going to listen to. I'm hung up on what you said. Like, I really do think that would be the perfect way to do this. We're like, now we're going to have a hearing that says we're literally reverse engineering craft. So not only have we been tracking craft, that was the first big thing we said, right? And not only have our military officials been seeing it regularly, like that's a little bit of something to chew on for the public for a year. Right. Which is what it's been. Right. Here's a new little piece to digest, which is, we literally are reverse engineering them.
Well, it seems like that could be between that and the USO stuff. That seems to be, in my opinion, what they're going to focus on if they get this whistleblower to talk, because it's also, and we can transition into our next story, seems like the main basis of what James Fox's documentary is about, hence the program. And so I want to read Schellenberger's tweet about James Fox's thing first, and then we're going to play the trailer again for James Fox's documentary, and then the response from James Fox. So we'll cover all that. Here's the tweet. Okay, this is Michael Schellenberger, who, of course, had that huge story that kind of just broke the internet last week. People are saying that UAPs, UFOs, they're just balloons, birds, secret weapon programs, whatever they are. It's illegal for the Pentagon to hide what it knows from Congress. And this new James Fox documentary will erase any doubt that the government has been hiding a lot for decades. So, and then he follows it up before we show the trailer. If these are domestic or foreign secret weapon programs, then A, that's amazing, and B, DOD must, by law, inform Congress. Motherships extremely fast, larger vehicles have been observed collecting or releasing swarm of smaller craft. For those who are interested in the subject, are new to it, consider also watching the 2020 film The Phenomenon. So here is the trailer for the new documentary from James Fox.
In 2017, the New York Times published a story exposing a secret government program investigating UFOs.
That story was kind of a catalyst for a lot of things that have happened since. Members of Congress started to ask questions.
Instruments report there is something there.
There are flight characteristics that we can't explain.
UAPs are unexplained. It's true. They need to be investigated.
Here we are having a hearing where just a few years ago, we didn't even acknowledge that these things were real.
Do you believe that our government is in possession of UAPs?
Absolutely, based on interviewing over 40 witnesses over 4 years.
You're telling me people have come forward claiming firsthand knowledge of craft of non-human origin?
That's correct. We have sources who have asserted not only that there have been crashes, but there have been crash retrievals.
Do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
Biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Were they human or non-human?
Non-human.
I'm sitting here today because the American people are being lied to.
We are the American government, and we are open, and we're going to be open about this.
What has been revealed.
Non-human intelligence exists. Non-human intelligence has been interacting with humanity.
Is only part of the story.
The pressure's on. The Pentagon, the CIA, they're going to have to answer the mail.
Some are risking everything.
Have you had incidences that have caused you to be in fear for your life?
Yes, personally.
To uncover the rest.
What is being done to verify the assertion that the U.S. government has spaceships of non-human intelligence in their possession?
That kind of revelation unearths people's beliefs.
I would go to jail to say things that I've been exposed to in the program.
All right, so that's a fantastic trailer. Gets you hyped up for it. But there was a response from JamesFox after Schellenberger's tweet, which was the following. JamesFox writes, "Thank you, Schellenberger, for the support. I am flying to Los Angeles right now for huge meetings tomorrow with over a dozen potential platforms. We will be making an announcement as soon as we can regarding the precise air date later this year. Again, many thanks to all of you for your patience." Okay, so lots in there. Now, we've talked about the trailer before, but I think, again, as we just had our conversation regarding everything with, and you see Karl Nell in that trailer, you see the lead up to it, and you see that I think that this is really, when I told you, or when you found out that I was really starting to get into this topic, the first thing you said to me was, hey, watch JamesFox's movies, The Phenomenon, and watch Moment of Contact. That's the first two. I remember when you were texting me, and I watched both of them. And I think that this is the one that I will send to people who are curious about this, because as we cover, we're less about kind of the potential like woo-woo stuff and the things that on this channel, we're more about what's happening inside of the government to bring this to the regular people. So how much impact do you think this documentary is going to have? That's the first question. Do you think it's actually going to do something, or is it going to just be a great watch for me and you?
You know, the one that we always talk about on Disney Plus, which I thought was like a great intro documentary that was summing everything up, but it's also a lot.
Yeah.
And it also came out, you know, in a time where there wasn't a big counter beat, you know, on the news, right? Like this coming out, everything feels like it's been coordinated this time, not, you know, accidentally. JamesFox releasing it around the same time as the hearing, all the lead up in the videos with Saul and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that if it gets on a platform that people have, right? Hopefully it's not one of these things that's buried, you know, to rent on Prime. Hopefully it's on a Netflix or something like that where people can just watch it. And the hearing makes a splash, then I think you have something. I think you have something because like you just said, you know, this might be a hearing focused on disclosure around the reverse engineering program. That's literally what this documentary is supposed to be about, the program of
crash retrievals and all this
crash retrieval.
Right.
It seems pretty coordinated.
It does.
But that's also triggers my skeptic hat. And I'm not calling anybody involved, you know, a nefarious actor. I'm just saying, like, if you were sitting back and wanting to block things and you were watching all this stuff come together, you're like, ooh, perfect. You know, let's make it all focus around this one thing and distract from this other thing. I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it.
I just think JamesFox to me is really locked into this and wanting to be in the forefront of it all, and this is why it is crucial for him to get a big deal here for this movie. And I think he's going to get one. I'll be honest. I was skeptical at first, and I was like, oh, where's it going to be? Is this going to be like, what it can't be is it can't be a pay-per-view thing. I mean, obviously,
be a pay-per-view thing.
I know that Netflix is pay-per-view because you have to do subscription. You know what I mean, though. You can't like go to Amazon and have to pay, $8 or $15 to watch it. That's going to do nothing. It's got to be on a platform like an HBO Max or a Netflix or whatever. It's got to be included in your service. And I think Netflix is the one that will really hit. But the thing with Netflix is not only because Netflix has 5,000 freaking shows. So they've got to really promote it. So if I'm James Fox and I'm putting together a deal and it's Netflix, what I'm making sure is, okay, we'll go to you guys, but we want to be featured on when they go to the Netflix, it's being marketed. I don't want it to be buried.
Not only that, I would try to time it immediately around the hearing.
Yes.
And make it so it's like the hearing, like if I'm a regular person just kind of like peripherally aware of things like that, and I see the hearing and I read the contents, I'm like, man, I want to know some more about this. I would love for that documentary to be somewhere I can watch.
100%. Well, that's what I did. Then that's what I did. Once I watched that it was that 5-part series or whatever it was on National Geographic, and then right after that, I was like, I need to find out more about the stuff that dives into it, and that's why I was able to watch his. But I think that I don't remember where the phenomenon was, but both those, I think one of them at least, I think the Moment of Contact I had to rent.
I rented them both on Prime
right,
when I watched
them. Right, and these are things that just need to be. And I'll tell you, if I'm Netflix or whoever it is that buys it, I'm buying his other movies too.
Oh my god!
And I'm putting them on there.
Exactly. I was just saying, like you could potentially have one of those moments. Like I'm just trying to think how many times Netflix has a documentary that not only becomes like a top trending thing, but it also stirs conversation at every weekend get together you go to. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing though that I have found with doing this, and I always use like Jillian Michaels as an example. Like there are people that won't just bring this up, but are fascinated by it in general that you wouldn't even know. And who's to say that's not some high level executive at Amazon, Netflix, wherever?
I'll tell you right now, I had 3 substantive conversations at New York Comic Con with high level people from big entertainment companies. I don't want to say names. That are all as keyed in as you and I are.
They watch you on the show?
They're not. They don't necessarily. Oh, one of them watches our show, and I'll tell you after.
Nice.
And the other ones I turned them on to, but they already were like aware. You know what I mean? Like they're paying attention, and it was like people who are like big suits. You know what I mean? They make big decisions at these big companies, and so having said that, I would just put out that if anyone else is watching this who has a platform like a Jillian Michaels or whoever, I would, if you want to help, I would say book James Fox. Book James Fox around the release of this.
Well, he's going to be on Rogan. He'll be on Rogan again for sure.
I'm sure he'll be on Rogan, but it's like you want like what Lou Elizondo's doing to do that tour.
Yeah.
That to me is
he needs a good publicist. I mean, I think
they should be sharing. Lou's publicist is the greatest publicist of all time. He goes on everything.
Yeah, and people really want to talk to Lou about this stuff too because of his position. And I think that so if we get this out there, and then as you said, I think rightfully so, targeted right around when that hearing is, because if it has, and James Fox probably has insight on what's going to be discussed at that hearing and what's going to happen, and if it comes out around the same time. And it's also like the News Nation thing that we always talk about. They've been covering it more so because what happened with them is when the hearing came out and all that last year and David Grush, they were covering, I mean, I think there was like 2 or 3 UAP videos a day.
It was insane.
They were covering it per day. And then you looked at and you understood it because, they cover Biden or Trump and it gets nothing, their clip outs. Because they're just being destroyed by CNN and Fox and whoever. But when they put UAP stuff out, hundreds of thousands of views. And then I still don't know. Never had a chance to talk to Ross Coulthart about it, but I'd love to. I wonder if it was in Ross Coulthart's deal when he signed on as, a special correspondent to do his thing. It's like, okay, I'm going to do my show with you guys, but I want to make sure that I'm the guy that's doing a lot of stuff, or I'm brought in to do it, and I want you guys to pull back a little bit. I don't know if he did or not, but it seems like they went almost like radio silent for a little bit. And then over the course of the last 2 months, there's still stuff popping up. And the reason I bring up all of that is because you look at what this topic does bring. It's not just people, especially this inside of our government that's talking about it. Whoever brings this up. What was the one that Riley and I interviewed the director that my buddy produced that Spielberg did recently? Remember the one on Netflix, the DreamWorks one?
Yeah.
What's that called?
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. The Spielberg documentary. It was also excellent, by the way.
It was really good, but the difference with that one, there was nothing in there minus maybe a couple different things, but for 80% of it was stuff that you and I already knew about.
Yeah.
There was all stuff that if you follow this
for us.
Right. And that's the important thing, is that it brought new because I saw people, their criticism was like, I knew this stuff already. It's like, yeah, but there are other people who don't. And if you do this, there's going to be tons of stuff in this JamesFox, like when he's sitting at the NASA hearing. Like, that's a story that we covered. He was there. He talked about it, and they gave BS stuff there. But we know that. But there's other people who are going to be stumbling upon this going, oh, NASA said this, and they were kind of lying. So it's super important. It's going to bring in a lot of eyes, and I think it's going to do very well for whoever winds up picking it up.
I imagine, I'm assuming that most people who are watching this would feel the same way. I'm not anticipating some breaking news from his documentary. I'm really not. If there is, awesome, icing on the cake.
You think it's more about awareness?
Yes, I'm hoping that this is something that drops around Thanksgiving that I can put on when my dad and family are here at the house and just say, hey, and it's like palatable for a general audience. That would be huge.
Well, if you put it on Thanksgiving,
when's the hearing?
The 21st.
Right.
So it'll be after the hearing, which the question is, and this is, okay, let's say that in your scenario, it comes out after Thanksgiving.
In the holidays.
Okay, but let's say it comes out at Thanksgiving or after.
Yeah. And
then you're either going to be watching it one of two ways. After the hearing, if it's a wet fart, as we say, you're going to go, okay. It's going to have less impact because you're going to go, yeah, well, I mean, because I'm telling you, this hearing is everything. If the hearing doesn't work or doesn't give anything new, you and I are both going to go, all right, what's the next cycle of, they're going to do another hearing? Okay, they're going to do another hearing and nothing's going to happen. They're going to try to do UAP thing and a bill is not going to happen. And Jeremy Corbell's going to say, here it comes now, and then nothing's going to happen. So they all know that they need to deliver here. And so if JamesFox's documentary comes out afterwards, when there's that boom, boom, punch of like, whoa, wait, then if Netflix picks it up or whoever picks it up, then it's huge. Because then it's going to be in the news cycle, and that's my pitch. If I'm JamesFox, I'm going, I have inside track of what they're going to be talking about here at this hearing. I know what they're going to be talking about. I've talked to some of these guys, and if this has the impact that I think it's going to, this is going to be your most watched documentary of all time. And it might be hyperbole or it might be actual fact. Who knows?
I could get excited for the hearing being awesome or even the hearing being lame, and I'll tell you why. I feel like if the hearing is lame, I think it mirrors the way our system works for any kind of change people are asking for, whether it's healthcare, whether it's civil rights, whatever it is. If it gets to a point where people start to realize that you can't just sit back and expect representatives to make choices that are going to benefit you. It has to be a grassroots thing, and then eventually government catches up.
Right.
You need not look any further than how many people in our current system were against gay marriage and then suddenly we're for it, right? So I think if it ends up going that way, people shouldn't be disheartened. Yeah, maybe lick your wounds for a couple days, but come back realizing the disclosure, like we've been saying for the last year, is going to come from places like this.
Right. The last thing I want to talk about is relating to everything that we're discussing, because the program that was released by Schellenberger that wasn't supposed to be, it's been out there for a bit, and someone who's been a kind of a big denier on all this stuff has been Elon Musk, right? He's been saying, no, we've been out there, we've been studying stuff, we haven't seen anything. We haven't seen anything. He was asked about the program. And this was an interesting clip, and we'll talk about it on the other side. Here it is.
Good afternoon, Elon. As somebody who is directly involved in the pioneering of space travel, what is your perspective on the suppression of advanced technologies under UAP crash retrieval programs and other black projects such as Immaculate Constellation that have the potential to fundamentally change human society?
I'm not familiar with those programs, but I mean, I certainly think if there are technologies that can be helpful, the government's aware of it. We should obviously provide that technology to the people. So I should say that people often ask me, do I believe in aliens? I said, well, I was one, according to Homeland Security until I got my, it literally said alien registration card. I'm like, cool. But I mean, thus far, I have not personally, I'm not aware of any evidence for aliens on Earth. I'm not saying they're not here, but I have not seen any evidence for aliens. For our Starlink constellation, we have never had to maneuver around an alien spacecraft even once. And we've got 6,000 satellites up there. So, I mean, they're very subtle, is what I'm saying, these aliens, But I think if there's if there's interesting stuff that's that the government's aware of that American people would find interesting or useful, we should obviously make that known. We should publish it.
No, it reads like it doesn't read honest.
It is the most media trained answer you could ask for.
Yeah,
because he does. First of all, he's chill.
Yeah, he always says.
Yeah, but if you've been asked this question a million times and you've given your opinion on it, right? You could just go, I've already said it. Yeah, he's very chill. It's fun, nice, Elon Musk. And then he's like, gee, I don't know. And then he follows it up with a little joke about, I'm the alien, right? That kind of thing.
Right.
And so this is just nonsensical, in my opinion, because it reads as if he's barely curious.
Right.
And that's the hardest thing for me to believe. You're literally the guy trying to get us on another planet, and you're barely curious. Plus, if this was your friend, let's say Elon Musk is your friend, Kristian, and you have this podcast, and you see he's your buddy, you guys talk once a week maybe, and you see that clip. What's your gut reaction to do immediately after?
What was that all about?
Exactly. And wouldn't you try to sit him down and be like, dude, seriously? You're going to... Come on, man. And then you don't think Rogan's done that with him?
I'm sure. Well, maybe. Here's the reason why, and we've said this before. If you have a contract with the government...
Exactly.
And they say, hey, listen, we're going to let you sniff around up there. We're going to let you do, but the NDAs, you know what they are. You know what they do. You don't talk about anything with anybody. Anybody says, you're part of this thing now. Anybody says anything about it, doesn't exist, never seen it, goof about it, whatever you can do. Because the other side of it is that he pays attention to the way time and space and all that stuff works. There are things that even what Karl Nell was talking about with the way that you can manipulate time and space and moving things with travel. It's and if you are trying to read craft that is so far advanced past what you have, we've never seen anything up there. Maybe they can go right underneath it and not be detected. How do you know? Look at all the stuff that they have, and that's the other thing that confused me about Karl Nell's thing. I will say too, combining with this, there's been so much conversation of different people saying, "Well, we've always said from different planets, but maybe it's not different planets. Maybe it's interdimensional." He's making it seem more so that it's other planets. Then there's other people who say, "No, it's interdimensional." Both, I don't know, or nothing. I don't know.
You could be a race from another planet that also understands dimensional travel.
Right.
You could be a race from another dimension that understands interplanetary travel. You could be both.
That's true.
The thing with Elon also that that strikes me as odd is like he's never shy to talk about anything,
right?
And drop bombs or like be controversial. This is the most like media friendly version of him you'll ever get is when he's talking about this subject.
He's cautious. Yeah, he seems very cautious. Like he's like there's like, oh, what's my answer? I'm supposed to say. Oh, I got it. And he says,
yeah. Like maybe he's already asked about how do I get this tech for my rockets, you know. And maybe they're like, hey, we're going to introduce this tech over the next 5 years or so, and then we're going to act like we just discovered it in 5 years. And at that point, you'll be one of the first people that gets to work on it.
Because if you're the richest man in the world, and you, like you said, I think you said it really well. If you're not curious, it's weird. This first part. The second part is, if you are the richest person in the world and you say, okay, well, I have these people over here, we have no evidence of it. But here's this guy over here who says it's real. Here's this lady over here who says it's real. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go spend some money because it cost me nothing. And I'm going to go investigate that. And I'm going to see because I'm curious because it can help out my business if it turns out that it's true. So I'm going to investigate. I've never heard of any of the people, the Lou Elizondos, any of those people. I've never heard them that they had conversations with Elon Musk. You would feel like for somebody who, if I didn't believe it or if I was running a company and I was like, okay, guys, NASA, we have all these cameras in the sky. We ain't seen nothing. But yet, you got Karl Nell over here talking about this and that. I'm going to go spend some money and I'm going to investigate myself because they're saying it is. And if they are and they have this, I'm going to go talk to Lockheed Martin. I'm going to go talk to them. I have all the money in the world. I'm going to tell them that I'll help them with this stuff. And then if he does do that and they go, sure, well, you can take some money, but you have to be quiet about it. You know what I mean? What's he going to say? He's going to go, oh, yeah, I've investigated on it.
Exactly.
And so it's when you...
He named his whole company, he named his company after Nikola Tesla.
Right.
You don't think the guy, I mean, that in it of itself is like a statement. Like, you know, Nikola Tesla, if you know anything about his background, you know, it's someone whose technology was suppressed, right, in favor of a potentially inferior technology, yada, yada. So, like, wouldn't you be the guy that's seeing these videos or these military people talking about something that can move in a way that your stuff can't move and your stuff's supposed to be cutting edge? You don't have that attitude. You don't have that dismissive attitude if that's the case. That's why I say I'm with you. I believe he's in on it, or he's at least brought in to the team enough to do certain things technologically and therefore make sure you play the game correctly or else you're going to be cut out of this shit.
Right.
100%.
Okay, so I think we did it. I think that's the show for today. We had a lot to talk about, and there's a lot more coming. It seems like there's just more and more information that's just popping right now. So, yeah, man, let's keep it going. Thanks for.
We need a video breaking down from you. A video breaking down that Sheehan talk. You know, I'm telling you, it's juicy.
You got to send it to me because I haven't dove into it yet.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys, for being here. I really appreciate you very much. Comment. Put your thoughts out there. Like. Do all of it. And I really appreciate you once again. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. And we'll talk to you next time. For Attack Peter, I'm me. We'll see you later.